actually. So, very welcome to this workshop, part of the village session, where we are going to go a bit more in detail on synergies between Horizon and the Cohesion funds. We have heard, you probably have followed, hopefully, some of the sessions yesterday and this morning, and you have heard a lot about the working together with cohesion policies, working hand in hand. We have a session on that. And not only the importance of synergies and the synergies that are starting from the strategic point of view, but also then down to the operational. So this session we're hinting to some novelties that have gone through towards simplification and towards more streamlining and alignment of rules. And this session goes a bit more in details on that. I'm not here alone. I'm here together with colleagues from DG Regio, because of course there is always need to tango. The colleague from Regio is trying to connect, but I'm here as well with another colleague from RTD, expert on state aid, which is Bernard von Vandeland, while my colleague from DG Regio, Monica, will join shortly. I'm Magda De Carli. I'm the head of unit of a unit called European Semester and Country Intelligence, and we are following closely the work together with DG Regio to simplify and make it possible to have synergies between Cohesion and Horizon. So without further ado, we will go through a presentation that is in fact shared between the three of us, because indeed we need to be together in order to create this synergy. So there is synergies also in presenting to you the novelties today. So before starting, let me remind you, first of all, that we started a bit late, so we owe you 45 minutes. We try to go a bit beyond the limit, 5 to 10 minutes extra, but not more, because there are other sessions coming. And in the next slide, you see already the information about Slido. Because of course we try to have this session as interactive as possible. Therefore, so actually I have to turn the slide. Voila! So this is the queue for you to connect to Slido, and you can already start entering the question. And after our presentations, we will try to answer as many as we can. The presentation, we hope that to be able to do it in 20-25 minutes, and the rest is for you to answer your question. So here again is the title of the focus of our presentation, and here it is a first slide I always like to show, because it goes at the origin of synergy. So why we are trying to create synergies between structural funds and Horizon. This is not because we simply like synergies, but we really believe that investments in research and innovation are key. And for those of you following all the good sessions in the R&I days, I think this becomes quite clear, the importance of research and innovation for the benefit of the citizen, for the transition, for the recovery. So it's extremely important to invest in research and innovation, and any kind of funding sources is of course welcome, but we need to do it in a synergetic way, because we want to do it in a way to maximize the impact and the quantity and quality of the investments in research and innovation. So in order to do that, the investment need to add value, and to do that, it's better if they are proposed in a synergic way. The purpose of all our work in this last 2 years of preparation of Horizon and the structural funds programming is really to open up as much as possible the possibilities for the synergies, and to make them as much as possible simple and easy to implement. Of course, when we are looking at what is required for synergies, we don't need simply the rules at the end. We will propose that, but it's very important since the beginning beginning to think about the political vision that is necessary behind it, the strategic vision, to know where we want to go. And then, of course, the rules and the instruments becomes exactly the tool to achieve what we want. But we need to have, first of all, the vision and be convinced that working in synergies help us reaching our objective. And then, of course, we look at the programming as a strategic programming together, and then the operational implementation. Here, when we are speaking about synergies between the two programs, of course, we are thinking about speaking about two programs that have their own identity, their own objectives, specific objectives. But if we are talking about synergies, because as well these two programs they have an ultimate objective that is the one coming from the political vision at higher level, which is a shared vision. We have the 6 political priorities of the new Commission: Green Deal, Digital Europe, new industrial strategies, and all the programs converge in order to achieve these priorities. In terms of Horizon and the RDF, these are the programs that you have seen for Horizon Europe. You have seen the strategic planning. So we have tried to be as much as possible open for consultation. The same for the RDF. And for Horizon, for the first time, there has been this kind of 1 or 2 years of preparation where already we were getting the inputs from the different stakeholders. And after this is done, then the regulations come. And for the first time under Horizon Europe, you will see an Annex 4 where you have seen, because it has been adopted, so Annex 4, where there is a full list of all the programs that can interact with Horizon, how they can interact. And at the same time, when you will see adoption of the regulation for the common provision for the RDF and the SF+, you will see that there has been a strong effort of alignment of these rules. We have received in the past years comments that the rules were not enough aligned, that the programs were really looking each of them to be as much as possible of high quality, simple, but they were conceived kind of in I wouldn't say in silos, but really concentrated each one on its own program. Now what we have done was to work together. We have seen a request for that during one of the sessions, and this is exactly what has happened. And it's not only Horizon Europe and the Cohesion program, but it's also the state aid framework. So the global general block exemption regulation that is about to be hopefully adopted, the revision of the general block exemption regulation as well. This revision has been thought in line with also what was the process of design of the rules of Horizon and the common provision regulation. So an effort really to work together to co-create, but to align as much as possible. What is the results of that? When we are talking about synergies, we have synergies of different type. Most of you knows, of course, the way in which the two programs interact with the upstream synergies, whether the capacity is built with through the structure, the ERDF and the SF+, and then if this capacity is built, then the stakeholders can access Horizon Europe, and there be successful. At the same time, projects that are being finishing with the support of Horizon can find the support in the follow-up phase of demonstrators, for instance, through the structural funds and the cohesion funds. And then there are parallel synergies. So these are a typology of synergies that are still there. But the presentation today will focus on 3 typology of synergies that needed more than the others a strong alignment and let's say joint design of the rules. And this is the seal of excellence, the support to partnership, and the possibility to transfer funds. So these are the 3 novelties that we can find in the framework, in the landscape of synergies. on which we will concentrate our attention during this presentation, because there are key novelties. There are already mentioned there, of course, why we concentrated on this. First of all, on the Seal of Excellence, because we thought that it was important, an important way to leverage already what Horizon was doing, in order as well for regions and the full stakeholders to take benefit of that. We have the support of partnership, again, to help member states as well and regions to get access to partnerships through the structural funds where they were not being able to participate eventually. And then the transfer possibilities, again, to make the most out of the selection process and the machine put in place by Horizon in the follow-up of the R&I projects. But we will go more in details later on that. If Monica is connected, I would give her the floor for this, for her to illustrate the counterpart of the Horizon, that is the cohesion policy, but I don't know if she's connected or not. I don't see. No, I don't hear her. So I will continue, and when she will connect, she will eventually correct if I said something wrong, or she will complete the information and answer hopefully your question. But since we are running a lot of presentations together, I think I can manage to cover her part. This is simply showing to you that when we are talking about some common overall objectives, this is reflected indeed in the programs themselves. So on the left side, of course, this is Horizon Europe with the 3 pillars, with the part on the widening, and there as well where we really try to build as well and to enhance the capacity. And on the right side, it's you see the key objective, policy objective 1 of the new regulation of the RDF. And then it will appear clear to you that even, of course, if there are specific different objectives of the 2 policies, there are some complementarities, and then there is a point of interlink where indeed we can really speak about synergies. And this link is the policy objective 1, because you will see, especially out of the 5 sub-objectives, there is the first one that speaks about developing and enhancing research and innovation capacities and the uptake of advanced technologies. So it is clear that this was already in the current, so in the 2014-2020 regulation of the structural funds. In the new cohesion policy program, again, we have a strong focus on what is called the smart growth, and a strong focus on investment in research and innovation. So it is clear that there is a common also objective there, and tools, and this is where we can build indeed the synergies. Of course, when we are talking about synergies and the different programs, we have to understand that each program, as I said, has their specific objectives. So even if, of course, there is the investment in research and innovation, there are elements that needs to be respected. Some rules from the RDF, of course, that needs to be respected. And first of all, is the smart specialization as an enabling conditions. This is a key concept for those that are operating in this field. They know very well that this very important concept of the smart specialization, the entrepreneurial discovery process, the involvement of all stakeholders in order to come and identify what are the priorities to focus on for the development of the territory. And when we are talking about the specific objectives, we see that is developing and enhancing research and innovation capacities and the uptake of advanced technologies, and also developing skills for smart specialization, industrial transition, and entrepreneurship. So what it means that every time anyway that there is an investment through ERDF, in selecting these operations, this is the language for the cohesion policy, the managing authorities, which is deciding on what area to invest the money, shall ensure that the selected operations comply with the program, including their consistency with the relevant strategies underlying the program, as well as provide an efficient contribution to the achievement of the specific objectives of the program. Therefore, when structural funds are mobilized for research and innovation, it's very important that this complies with the priorities selected for the smart specialization. And this is important because we cannot have real synergies if we don't know the other program and also the rules that are behind the other program. But there, again, I repeat, even with this, of course, specificities, we can work in synergies. And here we have a very first example of the synergies, and this is an initiative that was launched in 2015 that is called Seal of Excellence, and you see behind me also the label. And Seal of Excellence is simply started, for those that don't know, it's a label that certifies the quality, the excellent quality of projects that have been submitted to Horizon, and that the pool of independent and international experts has been analyzing, has been evaluating, and has been considered of an excellent quality, worth therefore to receive funding. The only problem with these proposals is that for that specific goal, there are not enough money in Horizon in order to support them. So in 2015, we thought that it was a pity for projects like, for instance, projects that involved small and medium enterprises in what was called the SME instrument, and now is the EIC. It was a pity that these projects were not getting support, because these are projects that are located in regions, in a country, and they can bring the benefit to the country because they are extremely innovative, and we know very well that innovative companies create a very good environment in the territory and a very good development. Therefore, through this certificate, we wanted to advertise to those that were interested to support these excellent projects that an evaluation was already done, and to advertise them, and also to help them in receiving this type of support. Regions seem to be quite interesting. We started working a lot with our colleagues in DG Regio, and there were some pioneering regions and member states that decided to support these projects. But as soon as they started supporting, they started seeing that there was a bit of an issue, because when the structural funds were mobilized, of course, state aid rules needed to apply. While when there is Horizon funding coming in, is already considered complying with state aid rules. So there are certain checks that do not need to be done because it's already a priori considered to be compliant. So we started working together with our colleagues, DG Regio and DG Competition, in order to see whether we could simplify a bit the application of the rules to really exploit this Seal of Excellence. So my colleague will tell you in details about the state aid, but we have been able, in fact, to do this simplification, and I have a first slide that tells you that, and then okay, Monica is here. Hi, hi, Monica. You are coming at the right moment, so I can give you the floor for these slides on the Seal of Excellence, because it's how structural funds can intervene to support Seal of Excellence, and you can also complement what I said until now if I forgot something. So, okay. Monica, thanks for joining. I'm sorry for this technical problem, but very happy that you are with us now, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Magda, and good afternoon, everyone. We can never avoid some technical hitches these days, but then we adapt as we go. I haven't fully heard everything that Magda was saying, but just to say a few things about the Seal of Excellence. So the Seal of Excellence as such is a label of quality for projects that already went through an evaluation process under a different instrument. In our case now, we are talking about Horizon Europe, and managing authorities are free to accept these projects, provided that they fall under the scope of the ERDF. It does help the assessment process. However, managing authorities still need to check those projects with regard to aspects that are not covered by the Seal of Excellence. For example, the eligibility, contribution to the project program objectives, as well as smart specialization priorities or scope of the fund before they can actually sign a grant agreement with the applicants. Projects selected for ERDF funding will follow the CPR rules. However, managing authorities may also choose to apply rules on eligibility of costs established under Horizon. The Seals of Excellence offers a pipeline of high quality projects as a benefit, which may be important in particular for less developed regions. Next slide and next speaker.
Yes, good early afternoon from my side. Now I'm going to talk to you about the state aid aspects of Synergies on this one slide and also then later on in this session. Mrs. DiCarli already said that in order for Synergies, in order to work, to be operational, simplification is important. And that for Synergies to be effective, we need consistent legal provisions. And more than that, even it's also they have to be conducive for member states to actually use their funds for more research and innovation and competitiveness as an objective. Now, for all this, we also need state aid rules. Why do we need them? It is because cohesion policy funds like the regional development funds or the ESF+, they are state resources, and so they are in principle subject to EU state aid rules. So EU state aid rules have to be aligned to the other policy objectives to enable member states to use their own resources, their state aid, for research and innovation. And in this landscape that in this Synergies landscape, as Mrs. DiCarli said, Seals of Excellence are one important feature. And it is now on this that I would explain you the forthcoming state aid rules that would facilitate the granting of aid for Seals of Excellence. Now, the general block exemption regulation, it already exists. It allows state aid for certain objectives without notifying the Commission and waiting for Commission authorization to grant the aid. And this regulation will soon be amended in order to allow precisely these synergies related aid. For instance, now for Seals of Excellence projects. And there are certain conditions attached to it. And these conditions will then be set out in the future articles in that regulation. We hope that it's going to be adopted by still in July. Now, these conditions are that member state authorities may provide state aid to replace Horizon Europe funding up to 2.5 million euros per project per SME. So only SMEs are eligible for that sort of aid under the block exemption regulation. Horizon Europe's eligible cost rules apply, and the total public funding, that means any additional EU centrally managed funding that is granted for the project, national, local, regional, all public funding can be granted up to the maximum level of support that is allowed for such action under Horizon Europe rules. Now, what are these advantages of these forthcoming rules? The first one is that there's no state aid notification procedure. Just to explain the background, normally member states have to notify the Commission of any new aid measure and wait for authorization. But under the block exemption regulation, that's not the case. A measure that meets all the conditions under this regulation is automatically authorized by the Commission. The member states can implement them immediately. And this is the specific advantage here of this rule, that member states do not have to reassess understated rules the eligibility of that project for aid. No, it's already been assessed under Horizon Europe. It's been granted a seal of excellence, so no need again for additional bureaucracy. It's just fine to grant the aid for that very project that has received the seal of excellence. Of course, well, it's quite clear that the managing authorities still have to check that proposals are comply with cohesion policy objectives, for instance, smart specialization, as Mrs. Tikali already said. And with this, I would hand back the floor to Magda. Thank you.
All right, so I'm muted. So thanks a lot, Bernard. Very clear, very interesting novelty, and this is exactly what what was requested the first time that we started to implement the seal. And I'm very pleased because at the beginning it didn't seem to be something very easy to obtain, and the fact that it is now in this draft revised regulation, I think it's a very nice achievement in responding to a specific request. So let's move now to the transfer of resources. This is again a novelty for Horizon and Cohesion regulation. It is about the possibility to transfer part of the structural funds to Horizon. And I will hand it over now to Monica to present what is happening for the transfer from the cohesion side. And I take back the presentation to tell you what happens once the money arrives in Horizon. So please, Monica, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Magda. So transfers are one of the easiest ways to link cohesion policy and Horizon Europe or any other centrally managed instrument. In practice, member states may request transfer of up to 5% of their program resources to any other EU fund or instrument under shared direct or indirect management, and that is a great opportunity for transferring funds to Horizon. I mean, voluntary transfers provide an opportunity for participation in Horizon of projects that are excellent, but they are at risk of not being selected for Horizon support, for example, because of budgetary constraints. I mean, these provisions are particularly useful for less developed regions, allowing them to build their research and innovation capacities by increasing their participation in Horizon Europe. Transfers can be requested by the member state. In case of transfers at program level, the relevant ERDF program has to be amended, including its financing plan. The request of transfer of the funds to a given Horizon instrument and its justification is discussed and agreed in the framework of the partnership agreement negotiations or program modifications. So the Commission may, in certain circumstances, object to such a request for transfer. There is also a possibility of a transfer back where the Commission has not entered into a legal commitment under Horizon by the 31st of August of year N+1. The corresponding uncommitted resources, these can be transferred back to the fund where the original transfer has been initially made. The rules of the receiving fund would apply to these amounts, so not in this case Horizon rules. And currently there are 10 proposed EU programs that allow receive such funds or such transfers, and Horizon is one of them. So back to you, Magda, for the Horizon aspects of the transfer.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Monica. And then, so what happens when the money comes to Horizon? So first of all, member states and then or regions through the member states, they can decide to transfer the money practically to, for them, ideally to any part of Horizon. But for the moment, we start with the mono-beneficiary schemes. namely EAC and possibly Maris Lodowski. So those that are at the moment also providing the seal of excellence. Why? Because being mono beneficiaries, they enter more into the logic of intervention of the ERDF. So we think that the member states and the regions like to transfer the money and the funds, of course, for when they know that the money will go to eventually companies from that member states of that region. So this is the first point. So when this is transferred, they can the money are transferred when they arrive in Horizon. Then they will be used practically to fund those proposals that have been evaluated positively, but were not able to be in the main part of the ranking list that will go for funding by Horizon. And therefore, the specific money that comes from that specific country or region will go to fund the proposals of which the beneficiary is from that country or region only. So practically there is a possibility to go further in the ranking list to fund projects from that funding from that member states and from that region. If the money are transferred and there are lists already established, in that case as well, they can be this type of proposals can be funded with this money that are transferred. So we said already the transfer is allowed from regional or national program, but through member states' decision because of the rules of the ERDF, but of course always for the benefit of that specific regions and that specific member states. The interesting thing is the administrative cost, at least for the first part, while we wait to see what is the amount of the money transferred. But for the moment, the administrative cost to implement the transfer will be covered by Horizon Europe. In case of the transfer, and this is one of the advantages also eventually compared to the other possibility of implementing, which is seal of excellence, where the calls are run then at a national level for supporting the seals. In this case, the money that are transferred and are used to fund these projects becomes Horizon Europe projects. So as such, they will start entering into the grant preparation through the mechanism of Horizon. They will become then Horizon projects, where there will be a project officer from the agency that is linked to Horizon that will follow up the project. So they really become Horizon projects, and this is a bit the beauty of the transfer, because they keep the Horizon Europe label. So this is the situation for the transfer, and we will maybe have the occasion to answer some questions, but since we are running a bit short with time, let's move to the aspect of the state aid, which is very important. Bernard, to you.
Yes, thank you, Magda. So yes, I'm back again with state aid, and I think even this aspect wouldn't compromise the beauty of the transfer, as Ms. Tecali already said. Why again state aid? It's always on the mind of granting authorities of whether or not their intervention constitutes state aid or not, because if it does constitute state aid, it is subject to a whole lot of conditions and obligations. Now, what about the transfer? If a managing authority transfers its funds back to the Euro fund, to an EU fund like Horizon, is it then still subject to state aid? So the use of this money, does it still have to comply with state aid? The answer is no, when it depends. In principle, the transferred funds are no longer subject to state aid rules if member states have no discretion over the use of the funds and do not attach any conditions to the transfer. Say, okay, I do transfer, but could you please prefer a certain group of beneficiaries? What does this mean in practice? In practice, this means that the evaluation and selection of beneficiaries is done at EU level. So there's no interference of member states in that. They have no discretion over the selection of beneficiaries. That's in accordance with the Horizon Europe rules. Member states cannot actually influence these eligibility conditions. and the selection of final beneficiaries, because all this is done by independent experts that have been appointed by the Commission. So it is this very important aspect of member state discretion that is here completely completely taken away, except there's one thing: the geographic allocation still remains. It's also what Mr. Tikali already alluded to, because this is inherent to European structural and investment funds. Of course, the geographic allocation still remains, well, to the eligible regions in that member state. Apart from that, there's no discretion of member states, so no state aid if these conditions are fulfilled. So, and with this, I conclude for the moment, and we'll be back with some more state aid aspects later.
All right, thanks a lot, Bernard. Again, we are heading towards the end. Let's try to go quick on those. So this is about the European partnership, and we are focusing, even if there are, as we were saying, different typology of synergies also for the partnership. The novelty is the possibility to mobilize structural funds for the ERDF, for the European partnership. Here we see in detail the rule that is there. It is a novelty because it's mainly from the Horizon Europe point of view, because in the past, you know that the European partnership expect mobilization of national resources complementing the funding that will be mobilized by Horizon in the European partnership. In Horizon Europe, following discussion and negotiation by the co-legislators, it has been finally decided that it's possible that in the European partnership, that the funding that are mobilized when there's for the national, for counting as national contribution, can be also structural funds. So they can be considered the contribution of the participating member states in European partnership. And of course, this is anyway provided that the relevant provision of the common provision regulation of the new structure of the new cohesion funds and the funds specific regulation are compliant with. So this is for the co-funded and institutionalized European partnership, and this is a novelty. And as we were saying at the beginning, this will allow eventually member states that didn't have enough resources to be able to participate to European partnership. They can do it, and with the idea that being part of this partnership is in fact a way to enter into this the networking and the R&I, and to support research and innovation at a cross-country and collaboration level. So to the benefit of the country itself. There as well, we have a specific reference to the partnership, and in particular to the co-funded projects that are stemming from partnership. And I give the floor again to Bernard, quickly to cover that part as well. Please, Bernard.
Yes, just quickly again, and it's a bit repetitive even, because I'm going to say quite similar things as I said before. Again, just to recall, the state aid rules are the sort of joint or a hinge between, on the one hand, the cohesion policy funds, and on the other hand, Horizon Europe funds. The joint or the hinge, because you have to actually facilitate the use of regional funds by more conducive and easy state aid rules. So that's the background. And again, in the forthcoming amendment to the general block exemption regulation, there will be a specific rules with conditions for co-funding, including partnerships. Well, what does this mean? That aid can be granted in the framework of co-funded projects under the institutionalized partnerships, or for Horizon Europe program co-fund actions. And the conditions are the following. So at least 3 member states, or 2 member states and 1 associated country to Horizon Europe, have to be involved. Why is this so? Because this would ensure that the state aid has pronounced stronger positive external effects through a massive collaboration cross-border. again, the margin of member states to direct the projects is limited. To select beneficiaries is limited because projects have to be evaluated and ranked by independent experts. To make the use of state aid and the granting of state aid easy, this Horizon Europe funding rates and eligible activities apply. So the member states are just going along with the EU in funding the projects. They do not have to apply specific state aid limits or state aid funding rates. It's the same funding rate. That is the ceiling for each project. And Horizon Europe eligible cost categories and methods apply. And again, just like with the Seal of Excellence, the total public funding, so all public funding, EU and member state, national, local, regional, together, can be granted up to the maximum level that is around under Horizon Europe rules for that specific goals. Again, this advantage is there's no state aid notification necessary within these conditions and the maximum aid ceilings. If the aid measure remains there, no notification necessary, it is block exempted. And again, no need again to assess eligibility of the project. It's already been done at Horizon level, so the aid can be granted without overmuch bureaucracy. So this is the kind of, again, state aid rules being a conducive joint or connection to enable these synergies. And with this, I think there is still the teaming aspects that I need to talk about a bit.
You can quickly touch on it. Yeah, here is the slide.
But Magda, would you like to explain some more details on the teaming before, or would you?
Yes, I think we are a bit running out of time. I don't know if it's better to take some question because this is very specific for the teaming. Yeah, maybe, or do we go, because yeah, if they can give us
maybe if there's a specific interest in teaming, you mean this we could clarify through the question answer. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I would just try to switch to the question and answer, and then eventually, if there is an interest in teaming, we come back. Anyway, we will, I guess, yeah, there will be a way to share the slides, I hope. Okay, here are the questions. I put my glasses on to be sure that I'm able to read them. Okay, the first one is, can ERDF ESF regional programs include specific measures to support Fund A? Horizon teaming projects, and B, A-grade ERC proposal not funded in the interview phase. Monica, you want to take this, or I can maybe start with the teaming?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So this gives a chance as well to look at the teaming that we wanted to mention. Yes, indeed, for teaming projects, it is possible, as it was already in the past, to provide complementary funding. And actually, the novelties now in the program is that this will be the teaming project will be evaluated in its entirety, not only the part that will be then covered by Horizon, but also the part that will be covered by ERDF. And the fact that there will be this joint evaluation with criteria that are set and also in agreement with DG Regio will allow indeed to apply the state aid, let's say, simplification, because exactly there will be no discretionary power of the managing authorities, because there will be the full project funded. So we will go back to the case that already Bernard was mentioning for the co-funded projects for the state aid. But there is also an extra things for the teaming. Maybe you want to come in on that for the state aid for teaming, Bernard.
Yes, quickly. So the again, it's there will be one specific condition rule for state aid for teaming projects in the forthcoming block exemption regulation, and that means that while the Commission is funding certain costs of a teaming project, meaning a project where universities from one member state and another member state go together to enhance the innovation performance of one university will go together. Member states can join and fund the projects, and this can be state aid if this project has a certain commercial objective. So then the member state funding is subject to stated rules, and for this sort of state aid, we will have an additional, this new cheaper block exemption regulation provision. What does it mean? It means that member states can fund, again under Horizon Europe conditions, the related R&D project. This is one thing. Similar provisions, as I said before. And in addition to that, what the EU is not funding under teaming, the member state can join and provide funding for related infrastructure. That means, in particular, research infrastructure or other investments in tangible and intangible assets that are necessary to ensure the success of the teaming action. This can, for instance, laboratories and other infrastructure that are needed by the eligible university in the teaming eligible country. And why is this in state aid rules? Because it is not excluded that this infrastructure can pursue commercial goals, compete on the market. So this is why it is state aid rules. If this would not be the case, if the infrastructure is not needed for any commercial activity, then of course the funding would be completely outside state aid. But now, as if it is state aid, there are then again certain conditions that member states can go ahead and under quite some favorable conditions grant aid for this infrastructure. There are some conditions to it, that the infrastructure has to be open to several users on transparent conditions. There can be more favorable conditions for certain private investors who provide private co-financing that is then also necessary for the investment. And then again, thirdly, the member state must ensure that with a monitoring mechanism that the aid for the economic activities does not exceed the maximum funding intensity allowed, which is 50% of the eligible costs. And with this, I hope that I explained it. Again, just the last word, all these conditions on seals of excellence funding, on partnership co-funding, and on teaming funding through state aid will be amendments to the general block exemption regulation, and we hope that it can be adopted still in July. It's a bit delayed because all this depends on the adoption of all the MFF, multi-annual financial framework related regulations. Horizon Europe has been already adopted, but still there are one or two awaiting adoption. So this is why the block exemption regulations with its stated rules is still queuing with these.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bernard. So definitely the answer is yes, they can be mobilized for teaming, and there are nice simplification that we can find in the GPER Article 25B, if I'm not wrong. So for the ERC, I think in general, I think structural funds can fund anything that is within their objective, no? Monica, I don't know if you want to take that one as well.
Yes, I mean, as a general principle, first of all, these need to meet the objectives of the funds or the respective funds or so of the ERDF. Any projects or operations that are proposed need to fit the program priorities, also as well as its specific objectives. So when it comes to, for example, the Seal of Excellence that was also requested, they also need to fall under relevant smart specialization strategies, as this is one of the guiding principles along which cohesion policy can finance research and innovation actions.
Very good. Okay, so I think for B, indeed, for the ERC proof of concept, the seal is given and the RDF can be mobilized. I just answer very quickly the last, and then I have to say bye because they will be closing the session. Seal of Excellence, it is present in other MFF program, yes. If we are talking about Horizon Europe, Seal of Excellence for the moment is provided mainly to the mono beneficiary. As I said, EIC, Seal of Excellence, EIC, Marie Lodowska-Curie, ERC proof of concept. I think for the transfer, the answer is yes, that it is can be broken down by different programs. And then the last one, I think, really they are going to close us down. So I would say that we take a good note of all your questions. I thanks a lot Monica and Bernard to have been here with us today. We will try to answer as much as possible via the chat if it remains open, and we will find a way to come back to you. So thanks a lot for your interest, and thanks to the speakers and thanks to the audience. We really need to close, and have a nice lunch if you have not eaten yet. Bye.